And welcome to another episode of Cal U Connections. I'm your host, Gary Smith, and once again, hope everybody is doing well in this crazy, crazy time. We started this show to try and shrink the world and bring our Cal U community together, and this is a show I've been waiting for a long time. I'm bringing in two of my favorite people of all time, Mr. Steve Ruffing and Mr. Ryan Kaufman. And guys, the reason we're having you on the show is both of you are working in the news industry, and I'll let you introduce yourselves at all, but I want to give everybody the upfront. The world has changed, everyone knows that, but you guys have basically had to reinvent what you guys do on the fly, and I want to talk about that and all that fun stuff, and hopefully we get some pet time since I know both of you have little ones running around, and I told J.R. Wheeler if you guys show your pets, we'll get him a half hour with him and his new puppy. But first, we'll go in the order of graduation. And first of all, Ryan, every time I come into the studio, I look down and there's another piece of your graduation party that I just see that has come back from underneath some things. But Ryan, why don't you take a few minutes and talk to everybody about your background, your Cal U connection, and what you're doing now.
Okay, so I started at got into CUT in, what was it, Gary, 2014 or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Graduated many moons later in 2017. Super senior.
Super senior.
I'm not going to talk about it. Anyway, ended up as a news producer at WTAP in West Virginia, and now I'm a news producer down here in Tallahassee, Florida at UCTV.
And not only that, you're on the job right now is when we're talking off screen, there's a line of storms coming through, so you're on high alert right there. You may have to jump out like Superman and take care of some stuff.
Something like that.
And Steve, we'll go to you. You are a more recent graduate of Cal U, but there was some crossover since Ryan said, yeah, he was a super senior. I think he actually still has one or two papers that are in the that need to be turned in, so I'll take care of that. But Steve, if you'd like to explain how you got to where you are. And first of all, we know you're from Munhall, and we interviewed on a separate show our good friend Kayla, and she said there's a new sheriff in Munhall. So I was told under penalty of pain that you had to be aware of that. But if you'd like to explain just where you are, your Cal U connection, what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, you could take me out of Munhall, but you can't take the Munhall out of me, as the old saying goes. But like Ryan, I started in West Virginia just past June 10th. I started, but I graduated in 2015. No, that's high school. I already made a mistake. Can we restart this?
Nope.
I graduated in 2019 and got a job at WTRF in Wheeling, West Virginia, right out of college as a digital enterprise reporter. First of its kind. Our company, Nexstar, they have a very strong presence on digital. It's a digital first mentality, so they opened up this new position as a digital enterprise reporter, and it's a little different. There's a little bit of a learning curve to my position, but as the months go on, you adjust, and then this happens, and there's another learning curve. So I know Ryan feels it firsthand as well. That you're switching everything up as the days go on, and it's like, is there going to even be an end to this? Of course there will be, but right now the focus is on adapting, adjusting, and kind of moving forward with all of this.
And let's bring you on, Ryan. We'll go kind of chronologically as well, but you're behind the scenes. You're a producer, and I always love seeing your posts and stuff from behind the scenes because it's just one of the coolest things because you're really nose to, what's the old saying, the wheel to the grindstone or rubber to the road or whatever. But you're kind of trying to organize everything. And how, since this started, maybe talk a little bit about what your daily life was before in the newsroom and kind of how it has shifted based on changing realities.
So you would think being in the capital city of Florida that things are always popping off. There's a bunch of action and whatnot. But there's a lot of days before pre-COVID that we were kind of hurting to find news. There was really, really slow days, but now it seems like every day you have a checklist that you have to go through and do the same thing day in, day out, get the latest numbers, the latest stats. It's kind of depressing in a way, but it's important information that you have to get out, and you have to make sure all your graphics are even more up to date than they ever were before. It's a whole new world. We're doing Facebook Lives every single day to keep people updated when the new numbers come out. We cover Florida and Georgia, so it's a big area.
And have you moved a lot of operations to work from home, or are you still going in and out, or how has that changed? Because obviously, news station, typically you're going from your house into the station or doing some gathering, blah, blah, blah. But since now I know a lot of places are under stay-at-home orders and everything like that, are you at home a lot, or are you back and forth, or just are you in the field, basically?
So there was a week where I was actually working from home, and it was one of the most difficult things in the world. I was the guinea pig for our station, and it was not fun. But I'm back at the station now, and we have 9 news producers, and I believe 3 or 4 are at home every single day. Those are our evening news producers. So I'm at the station usually during the day and editing video for the 4 o'clock show, and then I also do the news while producing it. So it's a different beast. It used to be in the mornings, then my whole life got turned upside down. And
He had to get that in there. He had to get it in there.
Yep.
So Steve, let's bring you on now. So Ryan gave a little background of what he does, and you're kind of in a newer situation. You mentioned your position first of its kind, and you didn't give any like first of its kind in the. I'm just going to say first of its kind of the universe. We'll give you that publicity right there, but just talk a little bit about the challenge it's been. So you're the first of your kind at the station, so you're kind of inventing it as it goes on, and then a few months later, bam, the whole world's changed. So maybe talk a little bit about how your job was before, how you had to kind of come up with your content and things of that nature. Now the changes since we're in a new world.
No, it is brand new. I mean, the news takes a shift to the digital world. I mean, how important it is to get something out on social media before you even put it on air, before you even think about writing it for on air. You get that press release, and then it goes on your website, and then it goes on social media. Now, that's more our web producer and our web manager that does that kind of stuff. I kind of fill in the cracks everywhere. My digital first, obviously, so I'm out getting digital pieces, maybe that are a little lighter. I'll go on some news stories and then just kind of produce a longer version of that story. If I can, if it's a good interview, I'll maybe write a VOSOT for on air and then tease to web where you'll find a longer piece. A typical package is a minute. Ryan's going to look at me, but a minute 30, minute 45, Mr. Producer. Is that ideal?
Yeah, that's good.
But this gave Ryan a heart attack, but I'm putting out maybe 3 to 4 minute videos, maybe as long as like 6-minute videos, because his jaw's dropping just because it's web first. And if it's a really good story, I try to keep them 2 to 3 minutes. But if there's a lot of information there, then I'll try to be a little creative with some things. And like I said, I kind of fill in the cracks. I'm doing stuff for on air, especially during this time. I mean, we need all hands on deck, and then I'll do my digital stuff, as I can. There's been some times where I was able to do that, but I'm doing stuff for on air. I'm making graphics. I'm making videos for social media. Every day we're doing these highlighting heroes pictures where I make some graphics for that. Local heroes, maybe some grocery store workers or nurses, people opening up food pantries. That's one of the big pushes is we're trying to localize all of this and maybe try to get some feel-good stories here and there. But obviously, you want to get the news and you want to get the information out there because that's what's important. Maybe not everyone is watching these national news sites, and maybe in a weird way, scared of the national news sites, right? Maybe people get almost panic, and so they kind of look to local stuff. So I try to keep stuff light, but now it's just kind of all over the place. But I don't even know where I'm going with this, just kind of because that's how my position is. It's just like all over the place. I'm not doing the same thing every single day. In ways I am, but other ways I'm not. It's pretty unpredictable position.
Well, let's back up just a little bit, and let's take people that aren't familiar with news production and things of that nature. the timing issue, because when you said 4 or 5 minute stories, both I saw Ryan's face go crazy, and even my face was like, oh, that's a long package. But Ryan, as a producer, why is it so important for time, like packages and stories? Why is timing so important, and why is like typically in a broadcast situation is something that long typically not used? And then Steve will go to the other side because you're digital, and we know there's no time limit on the internet. I heard that from a guy once. We'll start with you, Ryan. Why is timing important in TV news?
Okay, so here at our station, I know a lot of stations don't have it, but we have hard out times. So that basically is a trigger that no matter what, that train's going to hit. And you have to be off there by the time you got to hit all your commercials and everything in between. So you have to make sure that everything is timed out just perfectly so that you're not up against that train and you don't get hit head on by it. If you got a 6-minute package in there and you got other stuff to get to, it's pretty hard. That's why we like a minute to a minute and a half. If it's if it's more important, 2 minutes, but no more than that.
Okay, and Steve, since most of your stuff is digital first, what's the other side of that? Since you have a little more time for stories to breathe,
it's kind of like the last frontier. The digital world and news. I mean, it's this new platform where you have or you don't have many limits. You know, you can kind of do not anything, of course, but you have a free kind of stance to put things out there. So if it's something good, and they're not necessarily packages, I like to tell the story to the fullest that I possibly can. I'm not stretching a 3-minute interview into a 4-minute story. You know, if the person I'm interviewing has something to say and they have a story that, you know, I think is special and needs to be told, then I try to make it as long as possible. And it's not a typical package. Sometimes there will be like music in there. Sometimes there will be graphics. Sometimes there's footage. I try to get creative with these things, and I try to do something different every story that I'm working on because I can. Really. I mean, I'll be straight up with it because I can. I have to thank my web manager because he gave me this kind of free platform that he said just get creative and do your thing. So in that way, that's why I do get to make these longer pieces, just because it's a platform. You know, if you want to watch, you can. If you don't, you can just click on the next story. I understand that people want their news and people want it now, but it's not like I'm making a 5-minute piece on some breaking news. You know, I'm hopefully producing something that people want to watch for a long period of time, where they can sit down and open up their phone and just kind of escape for a little bit for 3 to 4 minutes.
And you guys both have kind of touched on the fact that during this, you know, maybe people don't want to watch the national news. Local is very important now. And we'll go back to Ryan first as Mr. Producer, and also the grizzled veteran, the old news veteran. When he started, you had a little press hat that said press on the side. But have you heard from like viewers and people in the community, like what's the feedback like with like all the local stories and trying to get that feedback? Because I know every community has been impacted, and that's what's so great about. That's one of the silver linings about this horrible situation is it feels like people are willing to connect more in ways they haven't. So what has the feedback been like in the Florida, northern Florida, southern Georgia, and parts of Alabama on a good day?
Are you talking in terms of like what our coverage is, or what people are saying about the coverage?
Just feedback in general.
So at times people get really upset with the coverage just because it's coronavirus. It's what they hear on the national level, and like Steve was saying, got to try and bring it on the local level, which is kind of hard at times. But with testing facilities and even the beaches all around here, beaches opening, it kind of is easy to localize it in ways, but only if there's something happening. Otherwise, it's just, like I said earlier, you have your numbers and you have your stats, and people are kind of upset with that. I mean, I get it. There's not a lot of happy news right now, and that's where someone like what Steve does kind of comes in handy, because it's happy stories, longer format happy stories, and that's what people want to see right now. And sometimes it's hard to bring it to you.
And Steve, that's a good way of segueing over to you. What has the feedback been like? You're in another panhandle. You're in the panhandle of West Virginia.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get shirts. You guys can be called the Panhandle Pals. We'll sell that. We'll sell that on cutvshop.com coming soon. So, but what's the feedback and everything like in the Wheeling part of the world?
You know, I think you can't please everyone, and I think that's kind of known. So you kind of just have to hope for the best. So yeah, people want to see this content. You have a mix. You know, if you put something like, for example, if you put people making masks and stuff like that, that feedback is so positive, and people want to see that. But let's say you try to mix it up a little bit, and then maybe not necessarily put out something that's not coronavirus related, and then you see people wanting more coronavirus coverage, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you can't really please everyone. So it's nice to have like a little bit of a mix in there. I know down here or up here if you're Ryan, over here if you're Gary, but in Wheeling, yeah, right. People actually have responded pretty positively. We get calls every once in a while about saying like, thank you, like, the coverage is good, because I think this will lead into kind of, I want to hear what Ryan has to say about this as well. Local news, we're getting all of the numbers, all of the important information from the CDC and, for us, West Virginia DHHR, and of course the different counties surrounding us. Those are where we're getting the numbers. So, all of this stuff that there's nothing to make up. So it's all facts. And really, we produce this thing on our website at Facts Not Fear, where it kind of lays out, what you need to know, because these numbers are coming from these credible sources where you're asked to go look on CDC, you're asked to go look on West Virginia DHHR, for us, Ohio DHHR as well, Department of Health and Human Resources, if people didn't know what DHHR was. So I know that that kind of took a turn of what you asked, Gary, but I was just interested to see what Ryan see that, because as a producer, Ryan, I'm sure you've had times where you're getting ready for, let's say you're producing the 5, you're getting ready for it, and you have the numbers all set, and then you get that press release at 4:45 saying 4 new cases, 1 new case. I just want to know.
We kind of lost Steve right there, and Ryan. So we're going to see if they come back. Sometimes the internet is a wonderfully crazy thing right now, and I have both of them frozen. But if you're watching this right now, we are with Stephen Ruffing and Ryan Kaufman. Both are in the news industry. Steve is in Wheeling, West Virginia, and Ryan is in Tallahassee, Florida. So I'm going to see if I can bring them right back. Like I said, we are sometimes experiencing internet outages. And on the screen, their freeze frames are quite enjoyable. We will give it another second. If not, we will wrap up this episode of CalU Connections, and we will try and get them on again at another time. But again, just a very interesting time right now, both of them working in the news industry and trying to deal with breaking news and the change in the news industry, working from home and that sort of thing. So it doesn't look like we are going to be able to get them back on. So we will end this episode of CalU Connections, and you can look forward to part 2 in the near future whenever I can schedule them. So for Steve Ruffing and Ryan Kaufman, this is Gary Smith, and you're watching CalU Connections.
Colin, what's wrong, man?
I just don't know how my family back home in Millersburg, Pennsylvania can watch our stuff down here.
Well, they could follow us on Twitter, or they could like us on Facebook.
Yeah, but what about our sports? How can they watch those?
They could watch it live on our YouTube channel.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
And welcome back to CalU Connection. If you're watching us live on YouTube, welcome back. We had a little bit of an internet issue, and something that only I could see was pure comedy with Ryan and Steve, as they both were frozen. And
I believe Ryan is now frozen as well.
Well, Ryan's frozen. Let me see if I can disconnect him, Steve. So while I'm trying to reconnect Ryan, if you want to just kind of finish up your thought, you were talking about just some of the changes in, I guess I can't think of what you're saying because I'm watching the other screen right now. See if Ryan comes back. But you were trying to lead into a question for Ryan about numbers and where you get the information and, all that.
So we actually kept talking when we both kind of went out. But I asked, when you're doing these shows as a producer, you're doing the numbers, of course, and he does the noon, as we were talking about. And I forget which states did what, but Alabama and Florida, one sends out a press release about new numbers at 11:30, and one sends out a press release at 12 o'clock with new numbers. And he does the noon. So he was just saying how difficult it is if you do have number changes when you already had something in for the newscast, how difficult it is. And that's what I was kind of asking him, if he's ever run into problems like right before a show. I know around here we found that a little more difficult. Is right before the show you're getting these new numbers. You're getting a press release with new cases, positive cases, stuff like that. So he's back, and he can kind of expand on that, because, of course, I'm not a producer. I just kind of watch as things go on.
Tornado warning, that thing just happened. So I actually need to go, guys.
All right, well, that's live TV.
Ryan, you stay safe, and Steve, me and you will
Finish up here for a couple more minutes.
Yes.
That has never happened before, so we hope Ryan stays safe down in Florida. Whenever we were trying to get it back, he was saying that, yes, we may lose power and there's a big storm. So like I said, Ryan, stay safe. We're thinking about you. And Steve, we can kind of finish up here and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, you started a few years ago. Like I said, you graduated high school in 2015, and we're just one of the best members we had here in the future, hardworking. And what have you noticed, what have you noticed since like high school, senior, college, freshman Steve to professional Steve? Because social media, you guys, your group, Ryan's group, Danny Beck, Colin Kirkwood, Dylan Godet, you guys always pushed us in terms of social media. And as a professional now, how have you seen that just take it to another level?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, actually. I know we're mandated to do so many Facebook Lives. It's kind of eased up a little bit because of what's going on, but in a natural setting, an everyday news setting for us, we want to push as many Facebook Lives as possible. And social media has just been such a huge thing, because a lot of my stories come from social media. We're getting tips via Facebook Messenger. So social media has been a huge part of my job. I run our Instagram account. I've been lacking a little bit because, again, the circumstances. You're juggling a lot. I know you can make excuses, but just kind of how we're living right now, it's kind of difficult to keep up with some of my social media duties. But yeah, it's huge. You're seeing this transition that you've never seen before in live television. You have people doing full-on shows. You have people doing full-on newscasts via social media. I know some stations do a great job. They have a full digital setup where you click Facebook Live and you see this full production. And the money that's going into some of these setups is crazy. And growing up in this social media world has, you can't thank it enough. I know social media gets kind of a bad name, but how easy it has made our lives, sometimes hard, as we just kind of learned the hard way just a few minutes ago. Social media, the internet, all of that, it could be a pain in the butt. But for me, it started my career. Where I go from here, I don't know. That's just you talk about senior in high school Steve and senior in college Steve. I think one of my biggest flaws is I kind of just go with the flow and don't really plan much. So we go with this and enjoy as much as you can with the social media and how much it's impacted everything. So you just kind of enjoy this. And I'd like to think that there really isn't a professional Steve. There's a professional side of Steve, but I like to be as much as myself as possible. And actually this position does a great job of that, because I have a little more room than usual to be a little fun and show a little more personality with certain pieces that I do. If that answered your question, it probably didn't.
Yeah, you answered like the next four. I can scratch off a bunch of my list, but I think that's a good thing, is to be able to go with the flow, because I mean, we were talking off camera. had this horrible thing hadn't happened, this show probably wouldn't be happening because the technology, nobody was researching the fact that now, I was on live with you in Wheeling and Ryan in Florida and Danny in Florida and Jess in Florida and my friend Ryan in New York City and people all around. So, and I know on the news side of it, one of my former students and good friends, Josh Fosbrink, he's in the Johnstown market. He's a meteorologist, and he's doing his stories from home. His wife and him post pictures on Facebook of their home studio. So I think it's a good quality to be able to go with the flow. And you definitely did that. Now, we have a few minutes left, and we're getting some hard-hitting questions from the internet.
And
where
are these questions coming from?
This is a valid source, and it's a very, very good questions from our good friend Jeff Helsel, who's watching at home with George on the couch. But he wants to know a very serious question because I dealt with it, and we were talking off camera. The haircut, like you're on air, and I know a lot of times a lot of stations will have deals with barbers or whatnot just with wardrobe and hair and stuff, but how are you keeping the hair looking good? I said you look like $1 million when we first came on, but what's the secret for the at-home reporter?
Dude, luckily I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel of my hair gel that I have. It's very good hair gel, and I'm on the last bit of it. It's a mess. Luckily, I'm not on air as much as I would be at the station just because and even like Facebook Lives and stuff, because I'm working from home. I don't know if we even talked about that. I'm working from home now, so I just kind of do my own thing and get stuff in because, usually I would be in the newsroom and stuff. So luckily I'm not really on air as much because typically this hair wouldn't be grown out like this. So to answer the question, me personally, I'm just trying to get it as tamed as possible. I'm not pulling out the old clippers right now. I'm not trying to give myself my own haircut just in case. I know I'm not like on air at the time, but I'm not going to pull out the clippers. Some other people, I'm not sure how they're kind of doing it, but it's a serious question because the hair is an important part, and even the salons. I know that's a good amount of business is when we go to get ours done. So hopefully this thing can end soon and these salons can open back up because there's a picture probably floating around there, Gary. Me probably in like 5th or 6th grade. I have an afro, and it's curly. It's like this, and soon that's going to be coming back if this keeps going for a month.
Oh, that picture is on the wall, and had I been thinking ahead, I would have brought that and put it right behind me.
Yeah,
right here.
I could even try to. You ask your next question, I could even try to find it. I know I have it on my phone here.
Well, the next question I have is I see a little guy behind you. Taking care of business. If I'll go to me so that way you can look up for the picture of Steve. But one of the cool things in your life is you're a proud pet owner.
Yeah, I am.
Guy. Oh, look at him! Look at the guy.
He knows, man. He sat back there and he's wondering what the heck is going on.
Not only that, I could see him adjusting the lights. He has nice 3-point lighting back there, just how you would do it in video one.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's a good boy. His name's Jack, and here's a picture there. So yeah. If you want to, I didn't put that up long enough. Yep, there it is. So that's what it's gonna be like if this goes on for another couple months. Hopefully it doesn't.
I am in favor of that hair coming back. I was also going to say I was looking at the Steve Ruffing fan page on the internet, and they're saying Mohawk ? So you got some options in a couple of weeks whenever it comes to critical mass. But Steve, like I said, it's been great catching up with you. It was great catching up with Ryan before the world was ending in Florida right now. So again, hope he's safe down there. But it's just we're all proud of you guys because I can still. When I go in the station, I can say, okay, that's where Steve used to sit, and that's where Ryan used to sit. That's, it's just amazing to see you guys, taking the next step in your professional lives. And like I said, you're the first of a kind in the world, digital media reporter. So,
yeah, it's strange. Usually it's the multimedia, but this one is typically digital first. But it's more multimedia for sure. But I'm just happy to join you, G. Hopefully we could do this again. Maybe we'll have some more better internet issues, and if not, hopefully this ends soon so we could actually do this in person.
Well, you know what? We may have to revive our short-lived YouTube podcast, Stories from the Road to CUTV.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, and and it's a joke between me and Steve because we had this great idea to do stories about some of the things that happen on the road, and somebody, me, forgot to turn on one of the mics, so it's on YouTube if you want to look. But Steve sounds great, and you just hear I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that was not one of my finer moments. But one last question, Steve, before we let you go, because it looks like Jack wants to play or take over wheeling. So this we know this has disrupted sports, and you're a very fervent West Ham United supporter.
Yeah.
Go Hammers! Come on, you Irons. If the season still were going on, do you think they could have come back in the Premier League and overtaken those dreaded first place in the table?
Gary, I'll tell you this much. There's two blessings in disguise with all of this, all right? I'm going to break it down for you. West Ham was facing relegation, and if people don't know what relegation is in soccer, in European soccer, relegation is when the bottom three teams at the end of the season will get bumped down to the lower league, and then in that lower league, the top three teams will come up to the top league. So West Ham was facing relegation, and if this thing keeps going on and the Premier League ends the season, Liverpool would not win the Premier League. They were a few games of mathematically winning the league, and this happened. And if you could find some happiness out of that, if you're soccer fans, it's Liverpool not winning the Premier League.
That's one of the biggest silver linings because, like I said, come on, you Irons, COYI.
COYI.
21-22, we're going to be at the top of the table next year. So
you bet.
Steve, thanks for having me. Thanks for being on the show, and I can't wait to sit down when this is all over at a local establishment. We can really tell the fun story. So take care. Get all your best to your family. Make sure you give Jack a little treat, and I can't wait for the meeting of Jack, Sally, and George.
Oh, absolutely! Can't wait, Jay. Hey, this was fun. Thanks for inviting me on, man.
All right, and that's it for another episode of Caillou Connections, and we'll have a edited version where we put both halves together on YouTube, so look for that. So for Steve Ruffing, Ryan Kaufman, I'm Gary Smith. We'll see you next time on Caillou Connections.